Once upon a time, in a room warm with afternoon sunshine, there was a big wicker sewing basket. It was a cozy world all of its own, full of soft whispers and rustling dreams. And in a quiet corner of that basket, nestled next to a smooth wooden spool, lay a small scrap of fabric named Patches. Patches was a special little piece, with a cheerful pattern of tiny yellow dots on a field of the prettiest red you ever did see. It was the red of a juicy, ripe strawberry. Not a scary red, but a happy, exciting red. But today, Patches did not feel happy or exciting. He felt small. All around him were giant skeins of fuzzy yarn, shiny silver scissors, and buttons so big they looked like colorful moons. He felt lost in the great big basket. But high above, spilling over the edge of the basket, was the most wonderful sight. It was the quilt. Oh, what a magnificent quilt it was! It was a giant tapestry of stories, a blanket of dreams. From down below, Patches could see squares and triangles of fabric all snuggled together, each one with its own beautiful pattern and color, each one looking like it had found its very best friend. They all belonged. And Patches, down in his dark corner, wanted so very much to belong too. A tiny sigh seemed to ripple through his soft cloth. He felt so alone. He wished with all his thread and fiber that he could be up there, part of that cozy, patterned world. But how could a little scrap like him ever get up so high? Just then, a gentle rumble started above him. A giant skein of soft, gray yarn was shifted in its sleep, and it rolled ever so slightly. It bumped against a pincushion, which nudged a ball of elastic, and suddenly a pathway appeared. It was a steep hill made of a folded measuring tape, leading up towards the towering wicker wall of the basket. It was a scary climb for someone so small. A little shiver ran through Patches. The hill looked so tall. But the thought of the quilt, of finding a place to belong, made him feel a tiny bit brave. So Patches took a deep breath and began to move. He didn't have feet, so he had to sort of shuffle and wriggle bumpity-bump up the slippery yellow tape. It was hard work. He pushed and he shuffled, using all his strength. He was a brave little scrap on a very big adventure. Finally, after much wriggling, he reached the top of the basket's wall. The world opened up before him. The floor of the room looked miles away. But right there, beside him, was the magnificent quilt. It was even more beautiful up close. So many colors. So many patterns. But where did he belong? He needed to find the others who looked like him. He needed to find his color family. Patches looked out across the vast landscape of the quilt. It was like a giant map made of fabric. He decided to set off, shuffling carefully along a raised seam that acted like a little road. He was looking for a color. A very specific color. He was looking for his own happy strawberry red. On shuffled the little red scrap, bumpity-bump along the seam road. He passed a square of fabric that was a deep forest green, like the leaves on a tall tree. It was beautiful, but it was not his color. He shuffled on. He passed a triangle that was a soft, fluffy white, like a cloud in a summer sky. It was lovely, but it was not his color. Patches began to worry. Would he ever find his place? But then what was that up ahead? A flash of something bright and wonderful. It was a color that made him feel warm inside. He shuffled a little faster, his little yellow dots trembling with excitement. There, right in the middle of a big square, was the most glorious red he had ever seen. But it was not the red of a strawberry. This red was darker, deeper. It was the red of a velvety rose petal, rich and royal. His hopeful little flutter slowed down. It was beautiful, but it was not his red. He didn't match. He didn't belong here. A feeling of sadness started to settle over him like a dusting of lint. Maybe he would never find his spot. Just then, a gentle breeze from an open window drifted across the quilt. It rustled the fabric softly, and the rose-red square rippled like water. And right next to it, the breeze lifted the corner of another piece of fabric. And what did Patches see hiding underneath? Another flash of red. But this red was different. It was bright and cheerful. It was the red of a shiny new fire truck. It was a wonderful red, but oh, it was so loud and bold. His own red was softer, happier. His heart sank again. This was not his family either. Poor Patches. He felt so discouraged. He had found red, but not his red. He was just too different. Maybe he wasn't meant to belong on this quilt at all. He started to shuffle away, his corners drooping. He was about to give up. But wait, what was that? As he moved away from the loud fire truck red, he shuffled past a long strip of fabric. And this fabric wasn't red at all. It was a brilliant sunny yellow. It was the color of a baby chick's fluffy feathers. It was the color of the big smiling sun in the sky. It was so bright and happy that it made Patches's own little yellow dots seem to wiggle with joy. They were the same color. They were a perfect match. A new hope blossomed in Patches. He wasn't just a red scrap, he was a red and yellow scrap. He had been so busy looking for his red that he had forgotten about his sunny yellow dots. This was a clue. This was part of his family. If he could find a place that had both his happy red and his sunny yellow, that would be his true home. Feeling braver and more determined than ever, Patches set off again. Now he was looking for two colors. He needed to find a place where the sunny yellow and the strawberry red lived together, just like they did on him. Unshuffled the determined little scrap, bumpity-bump, his eyes searching for a duo of colors. He moved past a lovely blue that was the color of a forget-me-not flower. He passed a pretty pink that was the color of cotton candy. They were beautiful, but they did not have his two colors together. He was starting to get tired. His journey had been so long. The quilt was so very big. Would he ever find it? But what was that, over near the very edge of the quilt? It was a splash of color that made his whole being zing with excitement. There was a red. His strawberry red. And right next to it there was a yellow. His sunny yellow. And they were snuggled right up against each other in a perfect happy square. Patches shuffled faster than he had ever shuffled before. He practically flew across the last few inches of quilt, his heart singing a little song of joy. He reached the beautiful square and pressed himself gently against it. He looked down at his own pattern and then he looked at the square. The red was exactly the same happy strawberry red. The yellow dots were exactly the same sunny, cheerful yellow. They were a perfect match. He had found them. He had found his color family. But then something amazing happened. Something even better. As he snuggled in, he realized the square wasn't complete. There was a little gap right in the corner, a Patches-shaped gap. It was a space just his size waiting for him all along. He hadn't just found fabrics that matched him. He had found the very spot that was meant for him. With a happy little wiggle, Patches settled into the empty space. He fit perfectly. His edges lined up with the other fabrics. His red melted into their red. His yellow dots danced with their yellow dots. He was no longer a lost little scrap. He was part of the pattern. He was part of the story. He was home. He looked around at his new neighbors. There was the soft blue of a morning sky right next to him, and a grassy green below him. They were all different, but they all fit together. They all belonged. And now so did he. A final cozy feeling washed over Patches. He was snuggled. He was safe. He was exactly where he was meant to be. The quilt felt whole now, and Patches, our brave little adventurer, closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep, a perfect part of the great big beautiful quilt. And who knows what other adventures await in that cozy sewing basket. Perhaps next time, a lonely button will go rolling off on a journey to find its perfect buttonhole. But that is a story for another day. Moral: true belonging comes from finding where your unique colors and patterns fit perfectly into the world around you.